the last thing that I'll talk about this week, you may have seen every now and again, I'd say every 6 months or so, there is a free-to-play mobile game that kind of breaks through the muck, and everyone goes, oh, hey, here's a free-to-play mobile game. Oh, this is pretty good. Why isn't everyone else talking about it? And you realise that, well, you know, it still makes millions and everyone's playing it, but just no one ever talks about free-to-play mobile games for good reason, because most of them are terrible. But yeah, Marvel Snap is this new game that is made by one of the kind of like chief people behind Hearthstone. Though everyone is making the comparison to Hearthstone, A, based on that, and B, based on the fact that 90% of people that have played a card game have played Hearthstone. This isn't really... It has elements, obviously, with like the power and attack, but is more based on... there's a board game that I have called Smash Up, which is where 90% of the mechanics of this are made up of. My first question is, have either of you two downloaded this yet?
No.
Okay. So the basic premise of this is that, and why I think it has a lot of charm and people are playing it, is like rounds are super, super short, no more than about 2 to 3 minutes. And the idea is that you have 3 bases that you're placing cards on top of. You start with your base on the left, which, and because it's Marvel, obviously, like all of the cards that you have are different superheroes and villains, and all of the bases are based off of different locations in the Marvel universe.
Is there a Morbius card?
There might be a Morbius card. I haven't found it yet, but you would presume
that is the main reason to play.
I would get the... Yeah, I mean, I would get the Morbius card, and then I would not play the game anymore, just say for the knowledge.
Open
I have
it every
Morbius.
couple hours and look at them.
Yeah, just spin it round.
So the first base that you get will have whatever gimmick attached to it. It could be that all cards based on this base can only be played in round 5, and you have like 6 rounds, and with each round you gain an extra point of energy. So at the start you'll only be playing cards that have an energy point of 1, and then by the end of it, if you have cards with energy points 6, you can play them. But they don't stack in a way that, like, if you have 6 points of energy, you play a card that has 6 points of energy, you can't play any other cards, but you could play 3 cards that have 2 points of energy, or 2 cards with 3 points of energy. So you still have to be quite tactical about how you approach that. And then over the course of the first 3 rounds, each of those bases will appear, and they'll have different gimmicks to it. If you want to just kind of swing wildly and just put a card on like the 3rd base that hasn't been shown yet, you can do that. And then once that base shows itself, if there are anything that is relevant in terms of powers, it will like be active there. So there's a bit of a risk reward depending on what's on that first base. And then each card that you have, if you've played Hearthstone, think about that, you know, each card, or most cards, have a specific gimmick to it. So you might put one card down that says, if your opponent puts a card down on this base, on this round, you gain an extra 2 points of attack power. Or if I put this card specifically in the middle base, it will gain extra attack power. Or if I put this card down, and you know, there's like 1,000 different permutations depending on the cards that you play. Some cards are just purely based on being very tanky or very bulky. Like, you know, this card is 6 points of energy, but it has like 10 points of attack. So maybe you want to try and kill off a base that you'll play this at the end there. Like Iron Man's card is super useful in that it doesn't actually do any attack, but what it does is it doubles the points that you have on that base. So if you've got like 10 points on a base, you play that and you get up to 20, and that might be what kills off that round. And the idea is with these 3 bases, you want to have the highest amount of points on at least 2 of them, and that's how you win the game. And again, you know, games are like 2 to 3 minutes long. And the kind of thrill of it is the fact that you might be getting utterly wiped for like the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then, you know, a card lands in your deck that just swings the game in your favor, you know, depending on what bases show up, that you might be able to find a tactical advantage. And it's, you know, it's something that you can kind of pick up, play a couple of matches, and then go about your merry way. And the thing that I think is very appealing to a lot of people, and the reason that I imagine, you know, the likes of us don't usually enjoy playing free-to-play mobile games, is that they're very predatory. They're very like, here's a pop-up notification every 2 seconds telling you to go to the marketplace and buy whatever thing. And this doesn't do any of that. It may, in time, you know, get the hooks in, then start to start to bombard people with offers. I mean, the game's already made like 2 million in its first week or so. It's doing all right. It doesn't need to do that, but it's super like. It's throwing, it does have a couple of different currencies, but it's throwing different rewards at you because you're completing objectives, even without even trying. With every match, you're completing objectives based off of play this type of card in that round, or play 3 of these types of rounds. And I haven't played a game yet where I feel like I've come across against someone who's like way overpowering me, because one of the things that these types of games will do is they'll put you up against someone who's just that little bit stronger or even way stronger than you to try and compel you to go to the shop and buy a bunch of cards to get yourself up to the point of your opponent. But no, nothing like that has happened yet. It's very, very easy to get into. It has a very like low level in terms of understanding of the mechanics, but there is kind of a high ceiling in terms of being able to use decks to your advantage, because you'll get to the point where you want 2 or 3 different decks for different strategies that you want to approach depending on what cards you use, and you can really spend the time to invest into that, like I would have done when I played Hearthstone, or you can just throw a bunch of like random cards together and just kind of like try and wing it, and hey, you can still win if the odds are in your favor. And it's all right. It's pretty decent. I don't spend a lot of time with free-to-play mobile games because a lot of them there's like a ridiculous time and money sink to them to get good, but you can within a couple of rounds of this have it figured out. And one of the things that I like as well is that when you upgrade a card, cards don't get upgraded in terms of like their stats improve. I don't exactly know what the benefit of them in terms of the upgrading, but you can upgrade them so that the actual kind of visual presentation of them changes, and then like the second time that you'll upgrade one, you get like a kind of 3D perspective of it, and you can actually kind of move the camera around and see like the 3D elements of it. Like it's a very nice game to look at. Like the cards are really well designed. They're really interesting takes on the Marvel characters, and actually like I'm guessing with most of the characters, or at least I've seen, like I've got 2 or 3 different versions of Hawkeye and the Hulk, and you've got like a kind of modern realistic comic book presentation of the Hulk, but then you've got a more kind of like 70s comic style presentation of the Hulk. So you get like the attributes of them are the same, unlike in like a Pokemon card game where you might have 2 different types of Pikachu and the attacks are different. They're all the same here, depending on how many different types of Hulk you've got, but like the powers are the same, they just look different. And I don't know, I like it. I think that it's smartly designed to make it super approachable, but allow a level of depth if you want to get into that. But if you just want to kind of jump in every day, clear the objectives and play a couple of rounds, it is very, very much approachable from that. And I'm curious to see if it starts to add more predatory like offers or different objectives, but so far it's so just like hands off from that. The shop is there if you want to go in and buy stuff, but there's no part of the game that is forcing you towards that. So I'd say it's worth a look.
The thing that has come closest to selling me on this game was seeing that the Uncle Ben card's power is that when this card is destroyed, add Spider-Man to your hand. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. They've nailed it.
Yeah, I don't have the Uncle Ben card yet, but I was like, I wanted to stand up and applaud that because, that's probably like the kind of funniest card.
Reminds me of the Spirits in Smash, where the one for Ness's dad is just invisible. I'm like, oh, it's heartbreaking.
Wow.